Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Okay, Now What? Today, you got me, Greg, and Jason, and the little baby. Tell us who the little baby is.
This is Ziggy.
Ziggy.
Yeah,
Aww. And
Ziggy's
how
calling
old is
for
he?
today. He's about 5 years old.
Aww.
Yeah,
Such a cutie. Well,
he's a
thank you
good
for
boy.
joining us. I hope you have a lot to say. So, it's
I
like,
usually
yes, I
do, but we'll
do.
see. We'll see if it's relevant.
All right. So first, unfortunately they're not here. But we want to give a shout out again to our co-hosts Elizabeth Trejo and Robin Rahal, who have been elected ADEMs for the California Democratic Party. And we were also told that 85% of progressives who ran won, and
Yeah,
which
there
is
was a
really
there was a
great.
really there was a really good organizing movement, and when I talk to people, I think this is a good topic for us to start out with because when I talk to people who say that there's no use being a part of the Democratic Party. It's too hard to fight. When you get the right organization, when you get people who are all sort of committed to the same goal, like and understand how the process works, then you can really take over a lot of things. I've been telling people here in Washington State, we can do the same thing that California did, and we'll have a lot of direct power as progressives.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, all over districts, all over California, the progressives won because there was a lot of out community outreach, right? So you had these slates going on in every district, and
Hmm.
basically there was, you get 15 delegates per district, and the ones who are identified on those slates, these are the 15 you want to pick, and that got pushed out to the public through text,
Hmm.
through Facebook messaging, through Twitter
It was
messaging.
all over the
It was
place.
all over the place, and I have to tell you, the tech guy on my campaign was a big part of that organizing. So,
That is so
I'm not, I'm
cool.
not, I'm not going to tell anybody who it is, but he had his fingers in it,
He shall be. He shall remain nameless,
and
but is okay.
I'm extremely now he is my brother from another mother,
Hmm.
but I'm extremely lucky to have him working on my campaign also, and he's a wonderful guy. But 87% of those slates that went out, those people won. So
We're
now you
progressive.
yeah, now you've got a really solid cohort of people
Hmm.
who can now sort of filter power upwards and do endorsements, and not just in
Yeah.
congressional races, but in mayor's races and city council races and all sorts of stuff.
State
That's how
assembly.
it's grassroots organizing. So the Democratic Party is open to grassroots organizing and taking that kind of power. But you got to have people who understand how the process works, and
Hmm.
they're willing to commit to seeing it through. Too many times I see somebody who's like, "Oh, things aren't working out the way I want them to. This is too much for me. I can't deal with this." Like, I want to let people know this is what to expect. This is how the process is. This is how you take power, but you've got to commit to doing it long term. You got to put like 2 years into it, and then you'll see some changes. But like, if you can't hang with it for more than 6 months, for me it's like, okay, well, let me find somebody who will.
Hmm. Yeah, that's great, and I'm
But
so
congratulations to
glad.
California for sure.
Yes, and I'm so glad this is happening because now we have some little hold on to it, so it's really exciting.
Yep. I am
Now,
very excited to see what happens there.
yeah, now, so you're on the little on Twitter today, and you,
I had some free time.
yeah, you did,
I
and
just caught myself getting in fights with people on Twitter.
so
So
Jill Biden had posted a tweet saying healing, courage, love, compassion, gratitude, and with a big giant Valentine's Day heart saying healing. And Jen Psaki, uh,
Psaki, yeah, Jem Psaki, the White House press secretary.
yeah, she had retweeted it saying compassion and kindness is back. And I
Yeah.
loved your response. You said the establishment, excuse me, that was my sister calling me. The establishment is not content with trashing the word progressive. They want to trash compassion and kindness now. We need Medicare for all and stimulus checks yesterday, and the kids are still in cages. That was literally the best response I could ever think of.
Well, and it follows up on, and anybody who follows me on Twitter probably knows that there was a big old Twitter beef a couple of days ago because I had retweeted Amy Siskind, who has 500,000 followers. She's obviously got some people who have Amy Siskind tweeted ding, So I had a bunch of people. I had a bunch of moderate Dems, liberals, Biden Harris supporters, whatever, they came into my Twitter feed and really hounded me. But they were calling it a ratio. It wasn't a ratio. My people, our side came in and really out ratioed them on it. So, but this idea, it is the mentality. It is that brunch mentality that so many of us on the left said, we said it back in 2016. Hillary Clinton gets in office, everybody's going to think the job's done, and they're going to be like, "Oh, we'll just let these people do their thing. Democrats are in charge, peachy keen. Everything's going to be fine. Just wait for things to take their, the process to work." And so I had retweeted Amy Siskind on something. She was like, basically saying how wonderful it feels right now. And I had said, well, to me, it feels like we're drowning in student debt still.
Yeah,
It feels like tens of millions of people don't have health care, and it feels like kids are still in cages.
because
So
that's
and
exactly what's happening.
and so I'm so frustrated with this Biden thing got tweeted out, and the liberals are losing their mind over it. They're like, Jill put all these hearts on the wall on the lawn and tweeted out all of these nice words,
Hmm.
and isn't it so good that our country is going back to compassion and kindness? And I'm like, I don't, we are being denied our stimulus checks here. Compassion and kindness while people still don't have health care, while we are still turning people away at the border who are seeking asylum, which is a human right. Asylum is a human right, people,
Hmm.
and people are coming here from there, either climate refugee or economic refugee, and they are looking at our country for help, and they are being turned away. So um, while we still don't have health care, and while the kids are still in cages,
Yeah.
and while we are not getting, it's going to be another month before we get economic relief, and it's not going to be what they said, and now they want to means test it even more. um, I don't see the compassion and kindness. And when they start, talking like that, it makes it really, maybe trigger's not the right word, but it sets me off because I'm like,
Hmm.
here they go. They're going to brunch. They're going to sleep. And
And what
that's what the
pisses
left was
me
really afraid
off
of.
is that I don't care about your damn little hearts. I don't, this is performance, this is theater. And I want policy. I want change. I want the kids out of the cages. I want Medicare for all. And I want some damn checks.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
if you were doing all that and you wanted to just do some cute little Valentine's Day thing, yeah, that's when you can do that because you're actually bringing stuff to the table. Joe
And I don't want
Biden,
to be,
Joe
I don't want to be
Biden,
a
you're
humbug.
not.
I don't want to be a humbug. I really don't want to be a humbug because I want people to, I want people to be able to enjoy the fact that Trump is gone. That's fine. You can enjoy
Yeah.
the fact that Trump is gone. But to have this era of, all right, Jill and Joe are in the White House now, and all is right with the world, and that's the vibe you're putting out. It's really, it's, for me, it's very disingenuous,
Hmm.
and I think it's there to placate people. And like I said, I don't want to be a humbug. Have your hearts. But can you imagine? Yeah, I mean, the way if Melania had done that, and I'm not going to defend Melania in any way. I mean, I think Trump and Melania are a terrible thing, but the optics of it, like if she had done something like that, they would have gone. These same people would have gone after her, and talked about how could you possibly say this while this is going on in our government, right? So the whole script would be flipped. And yet it's the same situation because materially for people in this country, 3 weeks into the Biden presidency, things have not changed. And that was one of the arguments that the liberals kept wanting to make. Well, it's only been 3 weeks. And I'm like, we heard a lot of day one stuff. We heard, we know what executive orders can do. None of that stuff was done. We're going to go back to this Obama style of negotiating where you start from the middle and move to the right. And we're already seeing it happen.
Yeah. It's very disappointing because if you want to be excited that Trump is gone and you want to be happy about it, cool. Use that energy to now be able to hold your representatives accountable and not play into not play into this neoliberal fantasy. Um but yeah, so moving on. It's day what, 4, 3 into the impeachment trial.
I'm paying
And
attention to any of it.
I know. They're not going to convict him. Uh, I don't think so. But there was some damning footage shown at the impeachment trial, which in fact was a little scary. I'm going to show you this 4-minute clip. I first have to, pull it up.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I haven't seen it, but I know what you're talking about.
Okay. Damn computer. All right. I'm sharing the screen now.
It was not until preparing for this trial that I understood the full scope and learned the information that you're going to see, that I understood the effort to attack our seat of government in order to carry out President Trump's mission to prevent the certification of a presidential election.
Multiple capital entries.
1318.
A 12 to 50. We're coming around from the south side.
Be advised the speed ended.
Intel 1, be advised, you got a group of about 50 charging up the hill in the west front, just north of the stairs. They're approaching the wall now.
They're starting to dismantle their reviewing stands and throwing metal poles at us. Cruiser 50, give me DSO up here now! DSO! Multiple law enforcement entries! DSO, get up here! Alright, we're 30 seconds out. We need some reinforcements up here now. They're starting to pull the gates down. They're throwing metal poles at us. Cruiser 50, DSO, get up here! Okay, we're here. 12 to 50, we're here. Oh, we just had an explosion go on up here. I know there's fireworks or what, but they're starting to explode explosives. Fireworks material.
In another radio communication between Metropolitan Police officers, you can hear an officer declare that there is a riot at the Capitol at 1:49 p.m.
Cruiser 50, we're going to give riot warnings. This is the apparatus here. We're going to give riot warnings. We're going to try to get compliance, but this is now effectively a riot.
1349 hours declaring it a riot.
So I'm going to go ahead and end it right there. But what is your thoughts on this? He committed treason. Why are we still having this conversation?
I want to first acknowledge, because I am very critical of police and policing, and the racism inherent in police,
Mhm.
the history of policing, and police unions that aren't really unions. In fact, I talked to somebody today and I said, police unions are essentially protection rackets for the oligarchy. But I am extremely critical of policing, and I believe that we need to go beyond defund the police, and we need to abolish the police and decarcerate our entire society. And if we can have the right social supports for universal social supports and jobs guarantees and housing for everybody, that we're really gonna be able to shrink that police down to a very minimal force. And and we'll see what happens. That's my goal, and I think that's how people all live in harmony. But I do want to recognize that those cops, were legitimately terrified, and you could hear it in their voice. I still don't know that we have the full story on who knew what about that day in terms of the police, and who called for backup, and
They were clearly let in, though.
they were clearly let in, but I don't necessarily want to say that message filtered out to all of the Capitol Police or the DC Police. I mean, I mean, who really knows? I haven't read anything that said these specific people knew this specific, because there were some officers there who were legitimately there to defend the Capitol. That they were acting on their job.
That's fair. There was literally one of them that led them the other way, away from the Senate chamber.
And so I believe that there were some police there who were legitimate terrified. Like I said, you could hear it in their voices.
Yeah.
So I don't want to diminish that. But as far as it's stunning that that so much of this started with and was centered on Trump's statements about the election and the fraud of the election.
Yeah.
And if you are shouting, we've got limits to free speech. I mean, it constitutionally you can't shout fire in a crowded building. You can't incite riots.
You can't yell bomb in an airport.
Yeah, and you can't incite riots. And so I don't think there's any doubt that Trump's rhetoric incited a riot, and people got hurt. And
I mean, this is the same guy who said good people on both sides. Like, I mean, come on, we're used to this already.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a shame. I know some people on the left are like, this impeachment. The liberals love it, right? The moderates are like, yeah, go impeach. The left is like, we got to get on with real policy, and this is a distraction.
I don't think. I mean, I think it needs to be done.
I think it needs to be done.
But the way that they are using it as a distraction to not get shit done. Yeah, oh yeah.
We can do other things. We can do other things also.
We can multitask, guys. Right. It can be done.
Well, and that's another thing. Just while we're on that, when I was critical of how little has actually been done to like I said, deal with our material problems right now. One of the responses on that tweet thread was, well, I think our first, we're dealing with the pandemic right now. And I thought, what, we should be able to handle multiple things at the same time.
I mean, FDR did it.
We can deal with the pandemic, and we can get people health care, and we can change our policies on the environment. I mean, there's all sorts of things that we can do. We can. Yeah, we can. Start building sustainable public housing. I mean, there's all sorts of things that we can do to say that we can, this one thing is happening, so everything else grinds to a halt. I think, that in itself is a failure of our government, if that's really the way it is.
And so look who decided to join us today. It's Thomas. Thank you. I'm glad you're able to come on. We had a little bit of a tech issue, but it's okay.
Yeah, that's good.
So it is February. We were supposed to do this last episode. Unfortunately, things got hectic and we didn't, but we want to do two shout outs for Black History Month. One, we want to shout out the anniversary of the NAACP. It is their 112th anniversary. Jason, you retweeted this earlier. Do you want to go ahead and share more information?
Sure. Well, following race riots in Springfield,
Mhm.
which was the land of Lincoln, the capital city of Illinois, in 1908, a number of people got together, black people and their white allies,
Mhm.
and they formed the NAACP. And so I'm not gonna. I mean, we all are aware of the NAACP, but the point that I made when I retweeted about this. Um, was that those founders of this organization were primarily socialists. W.E.B. Du Bois was an amazing socialist Pan-African thinker, and I don't know if Ida Wells how much she was tied into the socialist movement, but certainly the women's rights movement, and to think about where we are 112 years later, the comment that I made, that back when the NAACP was formed and following those race riots, which really kind of spurred its creation, here we are 112 years later having what is essentially race riots again, and that it has been so well established that over the last century, the links between capitalism and racism, and I forgot the other thing that I that I was going to tie that to: capitalism, racism. Anyway, and police violence. That we are dealing with those same problems. In I'm not sure, because obviously we weren't there that long ago. But we're the things that are the root of so much conflict in this country have not gone away, and I think we really we need to work harder. Obviously, we need to work harder, but I think there needs to be some kind of awakening in the I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but sort of the white liberal mentality that we're really not done. Like, capitalism really is the problem here.
It really is.
Are
Yeah.
so tied together, and I want to say for my own journey in understanding the racism part is, I used to be much more of a sort of a class reductionist. Like, the economics of this are really at the root of the problem. But as much as they are, the racism of our society is really its own separate entity and needs to be addressed as its own separate entity. So I have grown out of that sort of class reductionism into really understanding the intertwining of the two, but also the separateness of the two, dealing with economic issues and dealing with racial strife. So that's what I wanted to say, but congratulations to the NAACP. Good socialists.
Yes. And speaking of socialists, we want to give a shout out to the historical Black Panthers. They were a political organization formed in October of 1966. They fought for not just for justice among African Americans, but were also pretty socialist in their policy demands. Thomas, what do you what do you want to add on to?
I was going to say Fred Hampton was a communist. That gets erased from history quite a lot. A lot of people like to quote his quotes, but never finish him off with actually stating that he's a communist and what he believed. And another thing that really sort of sparks in me is he was 21 years old. Fred Hampton was 21. Like, for anybody young who's listening, you don't have to be 30 years old. You don't have to have experience. You don't have to, if something important you want to fight for, you don't have to be like this. There's no like starting limit, go for it, because we desperately need change. And I think these sort of little history tidbits get pushed aside a lot of the time to sort of ease over or try and cover over the reality of what happened.
And it's
But
heartbreaking
yeah,
because this isn't just black history. This is American history. Like, black history is American history.
yeah,
And when you're trying to erase the certain parts of history, you know, of course we're doomed to repeat it, you know.
yeah. I mean,
That's why
sorry,
ethnic
go on.
studies and black history is just so important. Go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking from my experience, because obviously I grew up in the UK education system, we didn't necessarily study actual like black revolutionary individuals. Like we didn't really study Malcolm X, didn't really study Martin Luther King. We studied mainly on the slavery topic. Did a whole sort of like semester on. In fact, we were made to watch Roots,
Okay.
the mini TV series. But a lot of the time, what happened was that the idea that the British somehow were part of the liberation movement, even though it's they didn't really do it by choice. A lot of people forget that Haiti was the first to sort of revolt and liberate itself from slavery. So you know, a lot of these times, unfortunately. And this happens in a lot of Western countries, is that they try and rewrite the idea that they sort of quell the actual sort of history of the involvement that the amount that they were involved in with suppressing and taking advantage of a whole entire demographic of people and try and spin it in a way that sort of sounds a little bit nicer than what it actually was. So yeah, that is high time that we had some actual real education on history, because you are right, black history is history. It should never be just, you know, cemented down to a month, but this is
Exactly,
where we are.
when we have 11 other months of just white BS.
But this is where we are at the moment, so we really need to get this out there to people.
Yeah, I mean, topically relevant, you brought up Roots, and so I'll mention that the passing of Cicely Tyson at the age of 97, starting that miniseries. I remember watching that when I was a kid. I was 6 years old in 1977. I didn't watch it at the time, but I remember my parents watching it, and then I remember watching it, you know, probably as a repeat. Maybe I was 10 or 11 years old, but you know. And then the other thing is HBO Max. If you've got HBO Max, they're releasing the movie today on Fred Hampton, Judas and the Black Messiah. So when we're wrapped up here, I'm gonna go watch that. Some Daniel Kaluuya and doing Fred Hampton. And
watch party.
I wanted to follow. I was a high school teacher for almost 20 years, and so I've been through many Martin Luther King celebrations. And I remember back in the late 80s when we had our first in Washington State. It was like 86, 87 that they changed the federal law, made it a holiday, and that we started having that recognition in schools. But you know, as a high school teacher, the Martin Luther King assemblies are always very sanitized. They're always they're very much focused on racism, and that's fine. You know, I mean, you can do a whole assembly on racism for Martin. You could do a whole week's worth of, you know, of course. But always left out is the fact that our country, you know, J. Edgar Hoover was after him as a communist. He spoke out against the Vietnam War. You know, he spoke
out against moderates.
Yeah, spoke out against the moderate whites and said moderate whites are the problem, and spoke out against economic injustice. You know, and so when we do these assemblies for school every year, and believe me, as the activist I am, I talk to the administration. We need to be including this. We need to be doing the full picture. I would write articles for the school paper on this. You know, let's not leave out, you know, the fullness of what Martin Luther, because he was an amazing movement leader.
Yeah.
The movement was just not focused on one thing. It was focused on, a much bigger picture than just the racism aspect of it, because it's all interwoven. I mean, militarism and imperialism also has huge, interwoven racism into it. Not just in our country, but globally. So.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say that just that's my experience, that we still have not gotten to a point where we can all really talk honestly to our kids about who Martin Luther King was, and what he meant to a wider movement.
Yeah, I agree. All right, now let's go ahead and bring on our guest, Christine Olivo from Florida. She's coming. Hello.
Hi, Christine.
Hi, Christine. You are muted.
That's the saying of the year. Well, of 2020. Now 2021. You are muted.
How are you doing today?
Great. How are you doing?
Great. I just finished my semester for the winter, so I'm excited about that. But we're so glad to have you here. And we're just gonna go on. Well, first I want you to tell our audience who you are, why you're running for Congress. Just give us all that.
Well, my name is Christine Olivo, and I am a regular everyday person, just like you, right? I am born and raised in Miami, Florida. I'm running in Miami, and I have two sons that I hope will not wake up during this interview and run around.
Bring them on.
Oh, fun. That's what they all say. And yeah, I'm a small business owner. I am a working class mom, so I juggle a lot of different things. That's a little bit about me. My family's from Haiti, which is going through a really tough time right now. So, it's kind of hard for us as a family, and just as a country, both here and there, just seeing the shift, right? Like everybody's shifting, everybody's protesting, everybody's fighting for better. And I just want to be in the forefront of that fight. So that's who I am.
That's so awesome. Jason, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Christine. So you're running in Florida's 24th.
Yes.
And we had some progressives running there last year, and I did a podcast. I did a couple of podcasts with Sakina Latola. And I don't remember. I think there was another progressive running in that race last year.
That was me.
That was you. So you were okay. So so first of all, how do you feel you did last year in sort of acclimating to being a candidate? And what do you think you're going to be able to do differently this year? And tell us a little bit about your opponent.
So last year, I think I did well running as a non-party. I got 13,000 votes, which is an accomplishment, right? But nothing compared to my opponent's 200,000 votes. So I think what went well last year is that I got to meet the people. I got to speak to the people. I was out there on the ground. I was hustling. I met people that I probably would have never met otherwise, not because I'm not out and about, but just because I had never reason to knock on doors before, right? So I'm meeting people, and I'm gonna be honest with you, the hardest part of losing the race wasn't that I lost. It had nothing to do with me. It was about the people that were still underrepresented. And knowing that they did not have someone that was going to fight for them. And that's what keeps me up at night. And that's what plagued me. And so this time around, I'm running to win it for them. my goal is to win it for them. And so I'm not running as a non-party affiliate anymore. I am running as a Democrat. I know.
I am doing the same thing, you know. I mean,
Okay.
it's a political reality that I think the left is really struggling with.
Yes.
But you know, we are very much a two-party system. Our voting systems are not designed for successful third parties.
I agree.
And you know, if you got to pick one of the two buckets to be in, of course, you're going to be in the Democratic bucket.
Yeah. Exactly.
And you will have a voting base that will respond to that. So
gotta make it through the primaries, right?
Yeah,
Gotta make it through the primaries.
Yeah, I totally understand.
Now there's a lot of redistricting going on as well, so we are in for it. I don't even know. I feel like it's going to be an all-out battle for to draw these lines. For those of you that are watching that don't know, every 10 years there's a census, and after that census report is done, we redraw the lines so that the country is equally represented, right? So Florida will be gaining 2 seats. Now, Congress always stays 435 members. So if Florida's gaining 2 seats, that means there's going to be some states that are losing seats. And so
we already know that West Virginia is going to lose a seat. I think they're going from 3 seats to 2 seats for that state. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What about California? Do we know anything about California?
California, I think I have the map. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I know Texas is gaining 3.
Oh.
I don't know. I can't remember California. But I'll hit you up later once I
Thomas, do you have anything to
Yeah, I was just gonna add to that last point about running as a Democrat. I think until we have ranked choice voting across the country, I think it's very difficult to run as a third party candidate. I remember in the UK during when Corbyn was Labour leader, and what the neoliberal demographic tried to do is they tried to split off into a completely new party in order to try and take down Corbyn, to try and make out like, because they were so against the idea of being part of the conservative branch, but also didn't want to have anything to do with a socialist agenda like Corbyn. And so they tried to form their own party, and it completely bombed. Like, it completely, like, it got no votes.
About 9%.
They got it was horrendous.
But it was enough to take the win away from.
It was enough to take the win away from Corbyn. So it can be used strategically. It can be used to siphon votes away from a party. But yeah, I do believe that unless we get some sort of ranked choice voting across the country.
And not only that, I want to go ahead and add on to that. Like, the Democrats do also make it hard to make the third parties even, what's that word? Like, even viable,
Yes.
And that's a form of voter suppression. Party suppression is voter suppression.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very happy to say that in Washington, just today even, we have a ranked choice voting bill that did pass through committee. I posted about it today. It still has a couple of other steps to go through, but we're optimistic that we can get ranked choice voting here in Washington.
And I was just going to say that I'm under the logic that you run whatever party affiliation you think will win in that district. Like, if you need to run as a Republican, run as a Republican. Like, do it. I don't see why you can't do it. Like, just go on.
I will say I know one candidate. I'm not going to say their name, but I know that they're running as a Republican. I know they're not a Republican, but I know.
Like, what? Like, what are their policies? Like Medicare for all?
No, they're also not. They're not progressive, but they're like a moderate Democrat. But they ran for so many times. They're like, you know what? I'm going to switch it up. I'm like, okay, whatever works for you.
Imagine a progressive running as a Republican. That
It'd
would
be
be really
hilarious.
funny.
It'd
I'd
be
vote for
absolutely
them. I'd
hilarious.
vote. That'd be the only time I'd vote Republican. I swear. That'd be so funny.
I think it would be a genius idea if, I mean, but you would have to be so committed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you would need some acting skills because you would have to be so committed to
I am a
the
theater
Republican
major.
agenda just to get in, right?
Yeah, yeah. Unless you knew how to take over the party at the grassroots level, and you could get a bunch of other people who are committed to do it with you. So, Christine, I have a question for you, or just just your thoughts on your intro sound like you're really connected to your Haitian roots, and one of the things that I am running on as a candidate, and I think a lot of the progressive left is, I mean, we're very anti-capitalist. We're very anti-imperialism, anti-colonialism, and anti-fascism, and all of that stuff is really it's all connected. But for hundreds of years, Haiti is a country that has been exploited horribly.
Mm-hmm.
And still is,
Yes.
and that's really what I wanted you to talk about is, the relation that you see, sort of the global capitalism that we on the left in America is fighting against, and how that global capitalism has affected, the Haiti. I mean, I think you probably have a lot more insights than stuff I could go out and read, and so I just like you to talk about that.
Well, okay, so Haiti's a very spiritual country. So a lot of people in my family have a theory, right? They feel that because Haitians fought so hard to be liberated and to be the first, Black country to be free from slavery, that we were punished. Like almost like a curse was put on us, right? Like that's, and maybe it's not really a curse, but maybe it's like everybody got together and said, oh, absolutely not, we're not going to allow this. They may be free now, but we're going to keep them oppressed. Like we are going to make sure that they do not thrive. And so now
do we gotta like go over there and sage it up? Like maybe like
that's what I'm like.
I will grab my sage right now.
So now it has taken decades for Haitians to realize the negative impact that America has had on Haiti. Not obviously they've realized it, they've verbalized it, but to actually come together and collectively say, stay out of our business. Like if you look online right now, Haitians are saying, we want the US to stay out of it. We are going to fix this problem. We are going to fix our government, and we don't want you anywhere near it. They are tired of Americans. They are tired of we need a new ambassador, but they're tired of the ambassadors taking the government side and not being there for the people. We are tired of them giving. Why do we have American military weapons on our streets? Who is giving it to them? So it's almost like there's this big conspiracy, right? I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but that's what the Haitians think. Like there is this huge idea that you know what, we can funnel things through Haiti. They're the poorest country. Let's help them out, and then let's take all the funds and hire all of our own people to help them rebuild. But we keep the money with us, not with them. Or
people just need to realize that imperialism is still happening, y'all.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
The colonialist mindset. Yeah.
It's a very dangerous time right now in Haiti. So it's sad, but I look at it almost like the pandemic, right? The pandemic is sad. It's a horrible time, but it's also a moment for us to rise up and we can demand change. Because things are so bad, we can demand change because they can't say, oh, but we're doing so good right now. No, they can't. You can only challenge authority when authority is not pulling their own weight, when they're not showing
Yeah.
any justice for their people. So anyways, make a long story short, Haiti is realizing that they have to take their own power back. And I just want to say that regardless of what you hear in the news about Haiti being the poorest country in the world, which they love to say every single time, Haiti's
They've said it
beautiful.
since I was a kid. I'm almost 50 years old, and that's all we've ever heard about Haiti. Yep.
Yes, but my I still have family in Haiti. We have we have property in Haiti. The mountains are beautiful. My family goes and they'll vacation there, but nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about the mountains and the views and just the people and the culture and the music. No one talks about that. They just say that we're poor. And then you see kids with no shoes in the streets. And then you wonder, hold on a second, why don't they have shoes? Why are they in the streets? Why are we taking pictures of this when we should be asking, where's the money? So
exactly. Wow. Thank you.
I love your passion on that issue.
I know. Thank you for bringing light to that, because, not every day I think about that. And that's something we need to start thinking about. Christine, so go ahead and shout out your social media, your website, how people like me can become a volunteer.
You can find me. Well, the website is www.christineforcongress.org,
which will be in the description below.
Yes, christineforcongress.org. And you can go to my Facebook and Instagram. They're both Christine for Congress. And then Twitter is Christine424, and 4 is FOR. Christine FOR 24. Let's see what else. I mean, I have a TikTok. It's Christine number 4 Congress. I haven't started yet. I'm like working on my moves,
I'm staying away.
Hey, if you need me to start doing little funny videos, I got you.
Yes. And you can volunteer. You can sign up for everything on the website. But overall, even if you don't research me, I just want whoever's watching to take one thing and know, there is no qualification other than the fact that you have a passion for your community for you to run for Congress. Before I put my name in the hat, I was just a mom of 2 boys trying to survive. Well, I was fed up. And that's why
qualifications. Yep. You have to be 25 years old and you have to have been in the country for 7 years. Beyond that, go for it.
Yes. Obviously, like the technical qualifications, but that literally is it. Like your age, and where you live, and your citizenship. Like that is it. Other than that, what I'm saying is you don't have to be an attorney. You don't have to have a degree. You just have to have a passion for the people and a willing heart and an open mind. So please consider running. If you're watching and you're thinking maybe I should run, yes, you should.
Thank you so much.
Unless you're Donald Trump, and then you definitely.
Oh no, yeah, go away.
No.
Well, thank you so much, Christine, for joining on. Like I said, all her info is in the description below. Check her out.
Real pleasure to meet you.
All right, everyone, and that concludes our episode of Okay Now What. We hope to see you next week. Next week we have Alexandra Hunt, who is running for Congress in Pennsylvania's 3rd district. And please check us out on social media. Our social media is in the description below. Also, please tune in next week. Bye. Subscribe.